Hello and good morning to Daybreak on Trust TV. It's a beautiful morning right here in the nation's capital. And I'm Ibrahim Yusuf welcoming you to the show. And of course, right here in the studio, I've got my co-anchor.
Indeed. Good morning, Nigeria. I am Sunday Michael Ogu. It's indeed a beautiful morning, and it's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Yes, it is Daybreak right here on Trust TV. Sunday, the fuel queues are back.
It's amazing. Maybe they gave us a break for the Ramadan.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like we just finished celebrating.
Yes,
Past the last one.
When you would think that the sacrifices and the prayers would ease us into a normal time in the life of this country, and then suddenly you wake up one morning
and then all of a sudden you're just hit with it. you know?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Life cannot get any more tougher than it is right now in Nigeria.
But we Nigerians, we are a resilient lot. I mean, we've survived a lot.
I agree. We are resilient, but it does appear that it will get to a point where people can no longer take it.
Yeah, well, we hope it doesn't get to that.
After the Daybreak, we are battling with the payment of school fees for awards.
Exactly.
And then you get to a point where you can no longer use your vehicle to the place of work.
Exactly.
And it's a rainy season.
Yes, that's something to look at as well.
It's terrible. I hope that what they are telling us now is the real thing. The NNPC on the one hand is saying, the tanker drivers went on break, so there were break in supplies.
Exactly.
The petroleum tanker drivers are saying expect more hardship. And so
that is the thing, because if it was we were talking about petrol tanker drivers going on strike, I mean, like, on break, well, the break is over.
Of course.
Normal supply should have resumed.
I mean, it's been over for a while.
Exactly.
You would expect. And nobody even has the luxury to endure a 3, 4, 5 days break.
Yeah,
so I'm sure they too will be willing to get back to work so that they can continue to provide for their family.
Yeah, well, we hope things do get back to normal.
We do hope so.
Very, very soon.
We hope so.
Well, it's Daybreak on Trust TV. And, well, it's an all-male affair today. Me and Sunday. Sunday and I, right here in the studio.
Absolutely.
Well, so the show promises to be as bumper as always. We'll be looking at the fuel scarcity issue and, of course, other issues as well. And we'll also look at the front pages of the papers, where we'll be analyzing the major stories from our dailies. Stay with us. We will be right back after the short break.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust TV. We'll now take a look at the headlines to see what major reports we have. First headline reads, Bomb terrorist hideouts, El Rufai urges armed forces.
And moving on to the ASU strike, 2019 agreement unrealistic, says the Senate President.
Well, still talking education. Our tertiary institutions bedeviled by corruption, says the NUC boss.
Now, moving on to the details of the story. The governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, has again called on the Nigerian armed forces to facilitate area bombardment of terrorist hideouts and decimate them in order to save the country. The governor spoke as the guest of honor at the ongoing 5-day Combat Arms Training Week 2022 organized by the Infantry and Armored Corps of the Nigerian Army in Jaji, Kaduna. Represented by the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, the governor called for sustained joint operations against the enclaves of the terrorists. The governor commended the Army for preventing further damage during the March 28 terrorist attack on an Abuja-Kaduna train, where 9 passengers were killed and 62 abducted.
And the Senate President, Mohammed Lawan, yesterday described the 2009 agreement with the federal government reached with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, as unrealistic. He spoke at the National Assembly in Abuja during a meeting with the leadership of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, facilitated by founder Vision Africa and the Bishop Methodist Diocese of Umuahia, Sunday Onuoha. ASU has been on strike since February 14th, demanding, among other things, that the government implement the agreement reached with it. Lawan asked the NANS to shelve its plan to disrupt political activities in Abuja, saying the National Assembly will intervene. He also called on ASU to suspend the strike, saying there's no way they can negotiate when they are on strike. And I want to promise you that we'll push from the legislative angle so that together we'll resolve the issue, he added.
Still staying with the educational sector, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Universities Commission, NUC, Professor Abubakar Rashid, says higher institutions in the country are bedeviled by corruption. He spoke in Abuja on Tuesday at the maiden edition of the National Youth Service Corps, maiden meeting of the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC management with registrars of corp-producing institutions in Nigeria. He also blamed academic instability on the lack of uniform calendar for institutions to run their activities. The Registrar Joint Admission Matriculation Board, Professor Ishak Oloyede, said between 2017 and 2021, about 1 million candidates were illegally admitted into the institution. He said corruption and illegal admission occurred in state higher institutions because state government established them without having funds to run them. Oloyede said JAMB had yet to release the 2022 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination result because of some internal appraisals.
And well, that wraps it up on the major headlines. But the thing is, this ASU strike issue, I mean, like, it doesn't seem there's an end in sight, is there?
Obviously not. What's still for them is the fact that these politicians are fully engaged in the toga of 2023. Exactly. Whatever is not connected to how they return to their current offices, obviously does not get their attention. The students have sort of devised a means to disrupt political activities, perhaps. that would give them attention, and indeed it did, because they got an audience with the Senate President.
Exactly,
yesterday.
because it affects the politicians.
Obviously, we hope that the students across the 36 states will do the same thing. Maybe if the political ambition is threatened, they would take the resolution of this crisis even more serious. If they can organize candidates to pay 100 million, then meeting the demand of us
should be something that is on the front burner. I mean, like you would imagine that something as serious as this will be given more attention than it has been given. I mean, like since February 14th.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're now in May.
It's unfortunate, and you know what's even painful is the fact that even the ministers that are in charge of this problem are comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember the last time the education minister spoke to the country.
Yes.
You know, in person, to try to provide his own side of the story, or maybe a week-to-week or a month-by-month or a day-to-day effort, you know, with regards to what they are doing to resolve the problem. It just basically feels that nobody holds anybody accountable, so you can do whatever you want.
And nobody does, because it seems like nobody is doing anything about it.
Clearly.
I mean, previous strikes, you find situations whereby you hear reports of meetings being taking place and all that. But yeah, but this one, they are so few and far between.
Yes.
And there's no progress whatsoever.
None at all.
You know, and nobody seems to be thinking about the major people that are affected by this. I mean, like the students.
Yes.
You know?
Obviously, whichever way you choose to look at it, and at any rate, there are kids don't school in this country.
Yes.
It's the graduation season. We have seen pictures flying from everywhere.
From everywhere.
And they delightfully share these pictures by themselves, you know, trying to show the world how they have managed to send their children to ivory towers everywhere around the world. And so it matters less if the ones of the ordinary citizens, if you like, in Nigeria are at home. And whatever danger that portends for the 2023 election is also taken for granted.
Well, that is the thing. So if this continues, how are we sure that 2023 will be hitch-free?
Well, I don't think they care. As far as they are concerned, it appears they will just mobilize soldiers everywhere, militarize the elections that we have always seen. And for them, that is enough to guarantee, you know, peace and security. But again, these students, 18 and above, constitute about 60% of your population, the youths. So if you want them to believe in this country, to take their civic rights, you know, seriously, it must be seen from the way the state treats them. They must feel a sense of ownership in this country to take the pain to go and register for their PVCs, you know, and even vote.
I think even if they feel the need, if they feel the sense that the government doesn't even care about them, I mean, then why vote in the first place?
After all, people have been voting before them, and the country has not changed. You know? and the worst case is even the alarm that is being raised in some quarters that if we continue at this rate, we may not even have youth corps, you know, that would function as returning officers during the elections, because the ones that were mobilized currently would have served out their tenure.
And there are no fresh graduates.
There are no fresh graduates, obviously, because everything is stalled.
Yeah, and we're writing jam now. So something on social media, somebody was saying that students are lecturers are on strike, but you're writing jam. Where are you going? Exactly.
Because the secondary school system has continued to move, regardless of what happens at the tertiary level. So there is a stall at the top. But the bottom continues to move. So continue to pile up.
But there's going to be a backlog somewhere.
And this is unfortunate. Down to 23, 24 years ago, when I got into the tertiary institutions, I remember getting into the tertiary institution, and upon resumption within 1 month, we went for 9 months. And then we came back for 2 months and went for another 7 months. By the time we returned, another set was ready to join us. So we had 2 sets lumped into a single class. So it's terrible, and that went on and on and on, and what is supposed to be a 4-year program became a 7-year program eventually. It's terrible where we are headed with. As far as this crisis is concerned, we hope that the authority do something to arrest this in the mouth.
Yeah, well, we do hope that whoever is those concerned will actually give this the attention it requires. Well, we'll move on now. A blast suspected to be a bomb explosion has again exploded in Jalingo, the capital of Taraba State. The explosion, which occurred on Tuesday at about 9 p.m., took place a few meters away from the military base located in Jalingo metropolis. Now, correspondent Nana Mohammed reports.
We heard the sound of explosion. Of course, we don't know exactly where it happened. But then later, we got information that it was along close to military base, 6th Brigade, by Amazon Junction. That was what we heard.
The residents of Sabongari, a suburb few kilometers from the Taraba State Government House, says they heard a loud blast at 9 p.m. which shocked their houses and woke them up from their sleep.
I was in my house when I heard the loud sound. I don't know what the loud blast was and I don't know the cause. I was told that the incident happened not far from the military barracks. I don't know if anyone was killed. I was told that the road leading to the area was controlled by the military and nobody is allowed to go close. I was lying down on my bed and I heard a loud and heavy explosion that vibrated my house. The sound felt like the roof of my house was going to collapse on me. I ran out in shock and asked my family what was happening, but nobody knows where the loud and heavy explosion was coming from and what was the cause. We waited for some of the residents who informed us that it was what they suspected to be a bomb explosion near the Nigerian Army 6th Battalion headquarters.
Even though no group claimed responsibility for the Tuesday's night bombing close to the army formation in the state, the police said investigation has been launched to fish out whoever is responsible.
There was no casualty as a result of this very explosion. No arrests have been made, but the police are on top of the situation. Investigation is ongoing, and certainly in nearby future, those in this act will be fetched to face the wrath of the law.
Before these developments, Governor Darius Ishaku has last month ordered a stop and search operation across the state as part of efforts to firm up security. He directed security agencies in the state to network through proper investigation.
Quite unfortunate there. The bombs are going off again. We hope that the authorities arrest this in good time before more cities, more places in the country comes under this kind of terrorist activity. And moving on, motorists in Maiduguri have expressed worry that the increasing fuel scarcity and long queues witnessed in Abuja may sooner or later spread to Borno State. A correspondent who monitored the situation in Maiduguri reports that the residents also fear that the scarcity will come with an increase in price of diesel and make business struggle for survival. The report.
A drive around Borno Metropolis reveals that some fuel stations are open for business. Among those open, some are selling at the official pump price, while others sold above the official rate. Some were closed due to unavailability of the product. The news of the lingering fuel shortage in Abuja has become worrisome among motorists in Maiduguri Metropolis, who feel that they may soon be affected.
Of course, I fear that this is what worries me. I have a car, I have my boreholes, I am using fuel. And I was feared that when I had this one, since morning I came back, I am looking for the fuel. Because a gallon of fuel we usually buy 2,000, 3,000. Be a family man, our income is very poor, our economy of the state is very poor.
Our own fuel dealers, they are more even wicked than even Abuja on. But because if this thing happen here, so nobody will just go and sit down and forget about the car. So that's why you see that even if they started, it will not go up to 300, just 250.
I check on that one. The queue is plenty, so I can't bear it. That is why I came here. And we need government to come in now.
Garba Ibrahim is an oil marketer. He believes the situation won't be alarming for residents.
Some of my colleagues, they have on the filling station, they will take them about 2 to 3 weeks. Yes. I don't think that the oil will scarce here in Maiduguri.
Goni Shetima, who runs an automobile shop, relies on diesel to generate power. The recent rise in the price is affecting his business. This has forced him to charge his customers extra fee, a situation that made him lose patronage.
We used to buy fuel, diesel actually, at the cost of 650, but now the price has gone up to 750 naira per liter. We hardly even buy 50 liters. So this 50 liters, or rather at times we augment the differences to meet up at least to have like 60, 70 liters, and that will not last for another 1 week. So it's really affecting our turnover. Initially we used to have about 10, 20, let's say 5 cars a day, but now the turnover is very mean. So
Maiduguri has been in blackout with only few residential areas experiencing epileptic power supply. Many fear that another scarcity of petrol will worsen the situation.
Well, just like we talked about earlier, the fuel queues are back. And there's this growing fear that it's going to spread to other places, being like it's worse here in Abuja.
Yes, obviously. Maybe they have decided to serve us breakfast first.
Yeah,
and subsequently they will extend the dining table to...
Exactly.
We understand that it's already happening in Lagos. Kanu has already joined the fray.
I've heard some reports from Kaduna as well.
Obviously. So it's just a matter of time before the entire country
is
engulfed. What we also hear is that it's even better with some other parts. We got some reports yesterday from Ilorin that you would not find at the official pump price. The stations are open, but however they are selling anywhere around 200 upwards, but it's basically a drive and buy. A situation which I'm sure the Abuja resident would gladly...
exactly, because that was what I was going to say. I mean, if you talk to a lot of people right now, they wouldn't mind buying at a higher price if they can get the product.
And it's beginning to speak to some of the conspiracy theories that people had when this whole thing started. People in some quarters have held on to the belief that this is basically just a strategy to get Nigerians to say you can pay more for fuel. Let's not make it look like the heavens would fall. And it got to that point where people are saying if you want to sell at 250, it's fine.
Sell it at 250, but let's make it available. Exactly, because a lot of people are saying that. I spoke to some people yesterday, and most of the people that I spoke to were like, if this thing is going to be available, we don't mind buying it at 250, 300 if it is going to be there.
True.
You know, because now at the end of the day, you will queue, and the physical strain that you go through, and at the end of the day, you might not even buy it at the official pump price.
Obviously, and it robs you of the time at your own workplace too. So generally, productivity, drops. I spent 4 hours at the station 2 days ago and ended up not buying.
At the end of the day,
which
is 4 hours wasted.
4 hours
you could have done something else.
With all the anxiety about what could probably be happening at your decks.
Exactly.
And how some superiors could come around and demand to see you for an urgent meeting and all of that. So I could imagine what every other person on that queue was going on, because before I left, I could sense the desperation on other people. People would wait for an hour, and probably that they came out for their lunch break, and that is all they could spare, and then they had to go back. So productivity generally is impacted, and how it is impossible for our policy and administrative people at the aim of policy and administrative not to envisage that there was going to be a break.
Exactly.
Obviously, there will be shortage of supply. And so what you would have done 1 week to the festive period that was already known 30 days ago.
But one thing is, I mean, like, this is not something that came out of the blue.
No.
We've been having festivities before, we've been having breaks before, but
suddenly
there was no scarcity.
So if we were in nations where sometimes it can snow heavily and people are unable to do things for 2-3 days, what would happen?
Exactly.
How do we prepare for disaster in this country? Is there no sustainability plans that we could stock up materials such that we can at least have 1 week of uninterruption, and within that period from our reserve, we could mop up our operations such that the break would not be noticeable? You would expect that even if there are things like this, should last a day or two.
Exactly.
I mean, this has lasted over a week.
And there seems to be no end in sight.
You know.
Well, it is quite unfortunate. Like, you know, when things start in Nigeria, they just keep going.
Escalating.
Exactly. They snowball into something else. And sometimes even when you think they have gone, they still find a way of coming back. Just like we talked about right now with the Taraba bombing. I mean, like, we've had reports of bombs, you know, previously.
Yeah.
They seem to have. There was a period of time that they abated.
Yes,
you know,
that was when the army made successes in fishing out the bomb factories.
Exactly.
You know, intercepting materials that were designed for this bomb, the fertilizers and the rest of them, and they carry out some serious mop-up operations that appeared to be like the experts who fixed these bombs. You know, had probably been taken out of circulation, but gradually they are regrouping. We now have a more sophisticated set of terrorists on our scenes.
That's what it seems.
You know, every time something happens, as we saw with the case of Taraba, we are not even immediately able to establish which group did anything. We are waiting for them to take ownership and then announce to us through whatever means possible that they had done it. It shows the level of organization. And what is even more baffling is that this bomb went off a few meters from the army headquarters in Taraba. It means they are daring enough to even engage our first or last line of defense.
Exactly.
You know,
because
and
if they can take out the military,
if they can take that out, then you and I stand no chance whatsoever. For us, even at the sight of a pistol, we want to take cover.
Exactly, we will take cover.
Not
definitely.
to talk of the bomb that doesn't discriminate between a child and a mother, a pregnant woman, or a beggar,
a military person or a civilian. It doesn't really care.
We saw the scenes. From where the bomb explosion happened, and the people, when the authorities moved in and decided to do their cordon off and stop and search. It's the 75 years old, the 80 years old that you're stopping.
I mean, like, all these are reactive measures. You know. I mean, like, we like to see some proactive measures being taken by security agents to be able to forestall these kind of things, and it's quite unfortunate. I mean, like, we all know what we went through back then when there was this escalation of bombings here and there, and we celebrated when they ceased, you know, but unfortunately they seem to be coming back now. And well, we just hope, as usual, as Nigerians, we hope and we pray that it doesn't get any worse.
I think the biggest lesson for us here is the fact that we cannot go to sleep on the strategies that we use in diffusing this crisis. It's also clear that we need to reactivate some of the security measures we have in place. It is not here to huru.
Exactly. I think we seem to have rested on our oars.
Yes,
you know,
that is what victory does to you. It relaxes your nerves and gives you the impression that all is well, but clearly all is not.
And then when it comes back, it's like sneaks up on you.
Yes, and catch you napping. And before you catch up again, these guys would have done some substantial damage.
Because I think that's the word. We're just playing catch-up. You understand? These things happen, and then we react to them, and then another thing happens, and we react to it again. And we seem to be applying the same approach to this thing, and it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, like sometimes you don't like the way he speaks, the Kaduna State governor, but he seems to have been on bomb these enclaves.
Exactly.
Bomb these enclaves. The only thing I understand from his language is not just in the choice of the word bombing, but the fact that there's the need for us to take the war to the terrorists.
Exactly.
And because every time they bring the war to us, there is always a casualty, whether on the part of our military formations or the innocent civilians. Well, all of us are innocent, basically,
exactly.
Except for people who have decided to start on the side of criminality. But I think the strategy always is if you take the war to them, they will really have the time to sit down, strategize, and plan. You know, fantastic attack, if you like.
They'll be on the defensive.
They will be on the run. Well, there could be casualties for being on the run, but it's far better and in a controlled environment than having these people come into civilian populations to carry out any kind of attack whatsoever. We will now take a break at this point, and when we return, we will serve you the newspaper headline. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television. It's that time of the morning where we serve you a quick look at what the newspapers are saying this morning, this beautiful Thursday morning, as we have it in Abuja and hopefully so everywhere in this part of the country. And as usual, we would start with the Daily Trust newspaper. And Daily Trust is conspicuously leading with event around the polity. And the major headline on the Daily Trust this morning reads, "To save governance, Buhari orders Amechi, Malami, 7 other ministers to quit." On the rider, it says, Nwajuba Akpabio complies, orders weigh options. Section 84, subsection 12, unconstitutional, appeal court. Ministers using state resources to campaign, investigation. You would find some of those ministers who are affected right there on the cover. You have Minister Amechi, the transport minister, who is a forerunner for to succeed his master. We also have the Attorney General, who we understand is eyeing a governorship position in his native state. And we have the Minister of Labor, the chief negotiator in the ASU strike, who we understand is also running for the presidency, and a woman who has always been there from time immemorial in this democracy, Mrs. Pauline Talen, who we understand, I think, is gone in for a senatorial position or so from Plateau State. And just directly below that headline is a belt. You shaded in black. Directly below the images, you have NJC forestall conflicting rulings, issue guideline on electoral matters. I think we are beginning to see that already. The appeal court is already upturning the position of a lower court with regards to the interpretation of a section of the Constitution and the Electoral Act. And directly below the name marks, we have some huge stories there. Lagos Ibadan rail link to port stalls. CCECC demands 124 billion balance. Amazing. And we have strike. Gambari meets ASU today as students protest at APC Secretariat. What a strategy, if you ask me, if you ask us in the studio. And then below the belt, we have Israeli killing of Al Jazeera's Shireen Abu Akleh sparks outrage. Painfully, this is directly our constituency. We have not committed any crime by wanting to tell the stories of war. We are not soldiers. We don't take part in this war. We are not there to support any party. We are basically there to tell the humanitarian stories. And getting killed for doing this kind of job is rather painful. It basically means that people who are engaged in this conflict do not understand the rules of engagement. Women, children, media people are no parties to a war. And it makes no sense for you to target them. They are basically there to do a job in service to humanity. To become a target for this kind of attack is rather painful. Our heart goes out to her and to our own colleagues back here in Nigeria who have suffered similar fate, covering ethnic conflict, covering societal conflict, and basically becoming the target because people don't like the fact that we are telling these stories. And we have to, because journalism is the first draft of history. And we move on to the other two headlines left on the Daily Trust newspaper. Crack among PDP governors over presidential ticket. You'll find that story on page 14. And over 40 persons killed during the Salah break in Taraba. This is coming from a senator, I'm sure, representing that part of the world. And you'll find that story on page 6. The Daily Trust title is loaded with so much this morning.
Well, the next newspaper we're going to be looking at is The Nation newspaper this morning, and it carries the major headline, Quit Order, How Buhari Shocked Ministers at Federal Executive Council Meeting. And riders here, Nwajuba resignation sparked presidential action, and president unhappy with Emefiele's court case. And another rider here that says Akpabio Onu exit. That is the major story on the front page of The Nation newspaper. Another headline on the front page of The Nation is Tinubu optimistic on ticket. Ex-Lagos State Governor submits nomination form. Oshibajo, Nwajuba, Bakari Amosun return forms as well. And appeal court declines to okay 246 million naira for crashed victims, DG Falae's family. That is another headline on the front page of The Nation. Nigeria, South Africa, 12 others begin cross-border securities trading. And that is another headline there you can find. And while still talking politics concerning the story about the ministers that are to resign, there's a list here on the Nation newspaper that listing the ministers affected as Rotimi Amechi, Chris Ngige, Temepre Silva, Abubakar Malami, Uche Oga, Mrs. Pauline Tallinn, and analysis on those on page 2 and 3 of The Nation. Right there at the bottom of the page, terrorists kill abducted Catholic priests, and another one that says truck kills masquerader in Lagos. Well, that's quite unfortunate as well. At the top of the front page, government moves to restart talks with ASU. COS minister meeting soon, and appeal court sets aside ruling avoiding Electoral Act section 84 subsection 12. That is another story that you can find details of on page 2 of The Nation newspaper. And talking about the economy, Nigeria's GDP rises by 3.4%, says NBS. And then Army General missing, 6 others killed in Taraba bombing. Now, these are the stories that you can find on the front page of The Nation newspaper this morning.
It appears we are getting clarity from the bombing in Taraba. Now we know that 6 persons have been killed. So clearly it wasn't just the bombing. There were casualties, obviously.
Exactly.
And as with bombing, the painful thing about bombing is the bombing takes place in one place, but the effects can extend far beyond where...
Exactly, because it has a very large radius.
Yes, it does have a very large radius. And clearly on all of the papers this morning, everybody, not exactly alarmed, but seem to have taken or decided that the story with the ministers asking to quit is the big thing on our polity this morning. I'm only afraid that everybody in this government doesn't quit at the end of, at the end of the day, because those who are not nursing presidential ambition obviously have the ambitions to become governors.
Senators.
Others want to return to the Senate, where they feel it's a safe place to go and hide come the next election, so that they can continue to return. And then it speaks clearly to the lack of ideology. What it takes you as a politician to be a senator is different from what it takes to be a governor.
Exactly.
The ambition for a senator is different for a governor. We rather see these places as hiding places, safe covens, for us as people of clout.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean, they're attracted by the position.
Yes, because every time you stop a senator in this country to discuss issues, to have issue-based conversation, you find out that they're mostly very shallow.
Exactly.
Because it does simply appears that not enough research is going on. It appears that not enough consultation with their constituency is going on. They just want to get in there so that they continue to enjoy the
How many of them actually consult with the constituency?
Or even show up at plenary, even after winning this election. They just want to go around carrying some diplomatic passport to make movement in and around the country easier, and then find a way of getting into the news without much ado, because once you shout in the parliament, then we will be obliged to...
Exactly, you will be in the news, and you'll have the sense of relevance.
Absolutely. Yeah. We move on to the Daily Independent, and as with all other stories this morning, but with a slight variance, the major headline reads, primaries. Appeal court insists political appointees won't vote. Says they won't be voted for, can't be candidates for election. Sets aside judgment voiding section 84 subsection 12, sees provision as illegal. You'll find the president's picture. Next with him is the secretary to the government of the federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa. Very fascinating and amazing name, if you like, for a position where that bombshell was dropped on most of the ministers there. And it does appear like others were already prepared and waiting for it, because moments after that announcement, we already have 3 or 4 of them resigning. It does appear that they had cleaned up their decks, obviously. and it speaks to the fact that their ambitions were actually a distraction on the office. If you could clean up within hours of this announcement, what it showed was that all along you had already exited the place.
Your mind wasn't really there.
Your mind wasn't really there. It wasn't really there. And directly below that major headline, you have Nigeria's GDP improves by 4.03% in Q3 2021. This is according to figures that were released by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, and you'll find that story on page 6. And below the picture, we have 2023 election. Onu Nwajuba Akpabio quits cabinet after Buhari's directive. We have captured this adequately in other papers. And at the top, we have strike. Buhari chief of staff holds meeting with ASU, NASU, others today. NJC issue policy direction on handling political and election-related cases. Recommends appointment of 49 judges. And on the left-hand side of the paper, ASU said to go on strike, give FG 2 weeks ultimatum. That's soup. Okay, now this is the Polytechnic version of the University Association of Staff Union. Reps amend electoral acts to allow statutory delegates vote at primaries. Avowed rowdy session, reject proposed amendment to Section 29. I will support whoever emerges in a free and fair primary, says Tinubu. You'll find other story also on page 7. And court notify Malami's committee on sales and disposals of recovered assets. Interesting developments coming out from our courts yesterday. And you'll find these and many more details on the Daily Independent.
The next newspaper we're going to be looking at is The Punch newspaper this Thursday morning, and of course carries the major headline: Ministers exit ahead of primaries. Buhari bows to pressure. APC panel may demand resignation letters. That is the major headline on the front page of The Punch. And it has riders here: Nwajuba, Onu, Akpabio tender resignation, Malami Ngige retain seats. And another rider here that says, action belated, could have saved nation from drama. That's from senior advocates of Nigeria who berate Buhari. That is the major headline on the front page of The Punch newspaper. At the very top of the page, 19 days after Simban, NIN registration hits 80.7 million. Details of that story can be found on page 31. While talking election, INEC plans 3-week suspension of online voter registration. For details of that, that is on page 9 of The Punch. ASU, reps intervene, students shut down Lagos-Abeokuta road. And still coming back to politics, 2023 elections unlikely, Nigeria progressing to anarchy, and that is attributed to Falai. Well, for details of that, it is on page 3 of The Punch newspaper. Still staying with politics, Electoral Act, reps say status quo remains, appeal court voids judgment. And just talking, adding to that story, the ASUP declares 2 weeks strike, says decision is considerate. Well, if you want to find out whether it's considerate or not, that story is on page 8 of The Punch newspaper. And right here, there's another story on the front page that says, it's wicked, owing us pensions. That's protesting Civil War veterans lament. And of course, there's a pictorial there of the protesting Civil War veterans trying to get their due. I'll run according to rules, says Tunde Bakare. That is another story on the front page of The Punch newspaper. And football trials, police arraign suspects. Olympian denies defrauding businesswoman. For details of that, you can find it on page 5 of The Punch newspaper. Ekiti driver bags life jail for raping student passenger twice. That is another story on the front page of The Punch. Lagos to demolish 10 more distressed buildings before Sunday. And hoodlums invade Lagos hotel, kill guard, rob jam officials. And these are stories on page 4 and 5. And banks' assets rise by 19%, hit 6.01 trillion naira. That is according to the CBN. For details of that, pick up the Punch newspaper and turn to page 32. Well, these are the headlines on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
Interesting. From the Punch, you see students or hoodlums attacking a hotel, to pick a jump official, and you wonder what they carry are question papers. They don't carry money. It's not a bullion van, so you begin to wonder what
their motive actually is.
Painfully. We move on to the Leadership newspaper, and quickly we have as the major headline: Party primaries and electoral acts, starving of litigations. PMB asks Malami, Amechi Silva, and others to go. And right there on the strip, PDP discards zoning, throws tickets open. That was a crucial meeting yesterday that was ongoing, but basically overtaken by the events, the exodus, if you like, from the Federal Executive Council. And at the top right-hand side, you find APC presidential forms. I didn't collect 200 million from Jonathan, Governor Baderu. You know, there were allegations or insinuations, if you like, that the purported tickets for former President Jonathan was bought by governors from the north. Apparently, this may be answering some of those questions. For details, you want to pick up the Leadership newspaper and look up that story on page 11. Insecurity, Masari shuts Batsari Jubia Road. That's a major international route. You know, whatever that is, then clearly it must have escalated in the recent days. Bandits kill colonels, 7 soldiers in Taraba. Aisha Buhari wants envoy support for women in politics. And strike FG ASU meets today in ASU Villa. These are the major stories on the front page of the Leadership newspaper.
All right, the next paper we'll be looking at is the Business Day, which carries the major headline, Nigeria can't keep nurses it needs. And it says 7,000 nurses, midwives migrate yearly. That is quite an alarming number when you look at our own needs right here in the country. Great resignation to hit Buhari's cabinet is another headline on the front page of the Business Day. And then stories here that says security, business-friendly policies boost investments in Nasarawa. Details of that can be found on page 29. Apapa, gaping potholes hurt business despite 2.3 trillion naira customs revenue. And then pension funds opt for money market over FG bonds. And another headline here, 5 must-knows for first-time home buyers. So if you are trying to buy yourself a home, you can pick up Business Day to find out the 5 things that you need to know in order to do that. Well, those are the headlines on the front page of the Business Day newspaper this morning.
Well, quite a number of issues in our polity, and as you would expect, the dailies today seem to be on top of their games, you know, serving us perspectives from different events of notes that took place in our polity yesterday. At this point, we would take a special report, Daily Hustle, as usual, which beams the satellite on what Nigerians at the middle to lower cadre are doing to keep pace with the tough economic headwinds in this country. Please sit back and take a watch.
Sunana Babangida Musa, ni dan Adamawa ne. So 2003 sai na zo Abuja. Da na zo Abuja na fara kawo shi a Karo Bridge. Da na fara kawo shi a Karo Bridge ina koya har na fara iyawa. Da na zo na iya kuma na ga ina dan samun alheri. Dan na yi Okada, na ga Okada aikin ba aiki bane wanda mutane suke respecting din shi. Kowa ya dau dan Okada kaman akuya ne bai damu ma ya kashe kai ya tafi ya rabu da kai ba. Ko ya karya kai tafi ya rabu da kai. Sai na ga wannan sana'an bai dace da ni ba kuma na riga na yi makaranta na daidai gwargwado. Sai na ce to tunda haka ne bari in ci gaba da aikin kawo shi. Na applying polytechnic amma saboda rashin kuɗi Federal Poly Bauchi saboda rashin kuɗi shi yasa bayan rasuwan mahaifina sai na rabu da makaranta sai na zo na kama aikin kawo shi. Na zo gun wata sister na akan a samun min aiki bai samu ba sai mijinta ya ce to akwai wani kanin shi da yake kawo shi a Kara Bridge in zo mu fara aiki da shi. Sai na zo na fara aiki da shi har na zo na gane kan kawo shi. Da na zo na gane kan kawo shi sai mai kawo shi ya ce zai siyar da wurin. Zai ba da wani haya sai ba wani mai walda hayan wurin. Ni kuma sai na koma Okada saboda ba wani aikin da mutum zai da ya wuce Okada na rufin asiri sai na koma Okada. Tun lokacin ban yi aure ba ma da na koma Okada sai wata ran na ga wani mutum ya buɗe kawo shi a daidai Indian Hospital. Sai suna ɗan duba wurin ma ba fara aiki ba sai na je na same shi na ce oga ina aikin nan fa sai ce ka iya aikin kawo shi na ce mai na iya aikin kawo shi. Sai ce to gobe ka zo sai na je na kai mai mashin din shi na ce mai to na samu wani aikin kawo shi. Kullum zan tura injin daga Indian Hospital sai na kawo nan a wheelbarrow da safe zan fito 6 dau injin in koma da shi. Na kai 5 years ina wannan aikin shi ma. Da na ga abin wahalan yayi wahala sai na ce mai to ni zan rinka kwana a gindin bishiyan mangwaron nan na Indian Hospital inda road safety suke yanzu. Sai ce to ba damuwa zai rinka bani 8,000 a wata, rinka kula da kayan rinka kwana a wurin. To a gindin bishiyan mangwaro ma na tudi na Indian Hospital na fi shekara 5 ina kwana a wurin. A gindin bishiya ya dai kawai sa mosquito net in dan sa taburma ko carpet in kwanta abuna a wurin. Gunda nake kwanciya wato a gindin bishiyan mangwaro daidai Indian Hospital wajen inda road safety yanzu suke. Lokacin da nake kwanciya na sha gani so dewa ba so ɗaya ba so biyu ba. Wani lokacin barayi za su zo su tsaya a wurin, in suka tsaya daidai in sun ga mai mashin ya zo wucewa sai su tare shi. Da sun tare shi kankace me za su buga mai abu, suna buga mai abu. Za ka je na ta ihu wayo ba wanda zai iya taimakon shi, ni ma baran iya taimakon shi ba. Za su karɓi mashin za su gudu, wata ran kuma za su hau mashin ɗin su zo, sai sun zo daidai wurin da yake location ɗin ba kowa. In ka zo da sassafe ni kaɗai ne a gindin bishiyan mangwaro kuma ni kaɗai nake kwana a wurin. Za su zo sai sun tsaya kamar za su ba mutum kuɗi, sai ka ga sun caka mai wuka ko sun caka mai wani abu. Kana sake mashin ka waɗi sai su ɗau mashin su gudu. Ba kowa bane ma ya san ina kwana a wurin sai ogana. To daga nan ne fa sai aka zo wacce ta zo ta buɗe gurin sai da restaurants a wurin haka da ɗan ba, tana sayar da giya da yamma mutane suna cika. Sai aka zo oganta ta ce wai ta kwashe mata kuɗi. Koya aka yi dai kawai sai muka ga 'yan development control daga cikin gari mopol sun kai homa bamba kaman guda 5 ga civil defense ga menene kawai suna zuwa da wani bulldozer haka suka fara scattering din kanofin mu, suka fara ranar na yi kuka da idona ba kaɗan ba. Har sun sa wannan abun ma za su fara tona interlock din da ogan me yasa. Sai na je na samu wani soja na ce haba oga please talk to them now. Where we go find food? Now here we dey get food. If they comot this thing oga we no go fit work here now. Sai na roƙi ogan sojan wani 3 star na ce oga ka ba su hakuri mana. Sai ba wanda yake tuka bulldozer. Sai ogan ya ce mai stop this thing. Sai bar wannan. Amma kanofi tankin mu komai wanda ba ka ba hanyar Allah ba ka samu kuɗi ta hanyar halak za mu iya shiga. Nobody born in criminal but society can make you so. Frustration ya yi yawa. Muna aiki an zo an fasa tanki an rushe kanofi an yi wannan sata za mu yi me muka tare musu saboda Allah. Abin nan fa ni yanzu so 3 ana min demolition, so 3 a fasa mana tanki a tona mana gurin da muke aiki a kakkarya kanofi saboda me mu kadai ne muke aiki a Abuja. Ga wa'ancan sun kakkasa gado ga kujeru duka tun daga can har ƙasa, me yasa ba a je an fasa nasu ba. Ni kuma ba wanda yake biya na sai na yi wannan aikin kawo shi da kake gani shine rufin asiri na. A ciki na samu na aure yanzu yara na guda 2, akwai na mace akwai namiji, kuma a da kawo shi na aure banda ko sisi da kawo shi na aure ina da yara. Kuma a haka na gode ma Allah na siya fili kuma ina dan foundation dan in tada gini, amma kuma oga an zo an rusa mana gun da muke neman kuɗi. Sata za mu je mu ko kidnapping za mu je mu ma mu fara yi. In ba haka ake so mu ba me ake so mu kamar daga Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday aiki baya zuwa sosai. Ai yanzu ka zo ka samu aikin ya ragu ba aiki sosai ko kaman kwana 5 din nan working day aiki baya shigowa sosai, amma akalla a satin za ka iya samun gaba ɗaya daga Monday zuwa Friday za ka iya samun 10,000 ko kuma za ka iya samun 8,000 daga Monday zuwa Friday ko kuma za ka iya samun 12,000 ma Allah ya kawo aiki a kwana 5 din nan kenan. Kowa ya dage ya nemi abin kanshi saboda yanzu lokaci ne ya riga ya canja uga. ba lokaci ne wanda za ka tsaya wai sai wani ya ma wani abu ba. Ka dage ka nemi naka kawai.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV this beautiful Thursday morning. It is a lovely morning right here in the nation's capital, and we're here to bring you the very best and make sure that you are there having a wonderful time. My name is Ibrahim Yusuf. Welcome to the show.
I am Sunday Michael Ogo. It's a beautiful morning indeed at the nation's capital, and we hope it is the same for you wherever you are in this country. Thanks for joining us.
All right, so we'll go straight into the headlines right now. PDP NEC dumps zoning, throws open contest for presidential ticket.
And moving on to the educational sector, ASU strike 2009 agreements unrealistic, says the Senate President.
And still talking education, our tertiary institutions bedeviled by corruption, says the NUC boss.
And the news in details. The National Executive Council of the People's Democratic Party has opted to throw the contest for its presidential tickets open rather than zoning to a particular region of the country. National Publicity Secretary of the party, Debo Olugunagba, announced this decision on Wednesday while briefing reporters at the party secretariat in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, after the NEC meeting. He informed reporters that the decision was part of the resolution reached at the end of the 96th PDP NEC meeting, which was well attended by various party leaders. At the meeting, the PDP NEC also adopted Saturday, May 28 to Sunday, May 29, 2022, and chose Abuja as the venue for the presidential primaries and special national convention to choose, and also chose former Senate President David Mark to head the organizing committee.
Meanwhile, Senate President Ahmed Lawan yesterday described the 2009 agreements the federal government reached with the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU as unrealistic. Well, he spoke at the National Assembly in Abuja during a meeting with the leadership of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, which was facilitated by founder Vision Africa and the Bishop Methodist Diocese of Umuahia, Sunday Onuoha. ASU has been on strike since February 14th, demanding, among other things, that the government implement the agreements reached with it. Lawan asked the NANS to shelve its plan to disrupt political activities in Abuja, saying the National Assembly would intervene. He also called on ASU to suspend the strike, saying there is no way they can negotiate when they are on strike. I want to promise you that we'll push from the legislative angle so that together we'll resolve the issue, he added.
And staying with the educational sector, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Universities Commission, Professor Abubakar Rashid, has said higher institutions in the country are bedeviled by corruption. He spoke in Abuja on Tuesday at the maiden meeting of the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC management, with registrars of corps producing institutions in Nigeria. He also blamed academic instability on lack of uniform calendar for institutions to run their activities. The Registrar Joint Admission Matriculation Board, JAM, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, said between 2017 and 2021, about 1 million candidates were illegally admitted into institutions. He said corruption and illegal admission occurred in states higher institutions because state government established them without having funds to run them. Oloyede said JAM adhered to release the 2022 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination results because of some internal appraisals.
And that wraps up the headlines on the Daybreak right here this morning. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll take a deep dive into the analysis of the headlines on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Do stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Good morning, Nigeria, once again, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. That is, if you're just joining us at the hour. It's that time in the show where we indeed take a deep dive, as said by my co-anchor, where we have in the studio an analyst who would dissect and provide perspectives on all of the issues that have been captured by the various national newspapers in Nigeria. And I have the honor at this point, indeed, to introduce our guest analyst this morning, a friend of the house and a former boss, if you like, from whose umbrella some of us learned some of our traits in journalism. I have the honor to introduce the editor-in-chief of Dateline newspaper, and I'm talking about no other than Malem Nasrullah. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
And Barka Destala, I was hoping you would hold my chicken pack when you walked into the studio this morning, but I think we can always catch up on that.
Exactly.
And as usual, we will start with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. It's a bumper pack. If you don't have a copy, I think you should start reaching out to your vendors at this hour. And the major headline is keeping pace with the activities in the national polity yesterday, and I'm sure it had everybody talking. Yeah. And here it says, to save governance, Buhari orders Amechi Malemi 7 other ministers to quit. Mwajuba Akpabio complies. Others weigh options. Section 84, subsection 12, unconstitutional, says the appeal court. That was another major development yesterday. And ministers using state resources to campaign. That is according to Daily Trust investigation. And you have the story, the pictures of some of the major contenders for the seats of their masters or other positions therein in the state. And before we take comments from guest analysts, we would run through the other major headlines. And directly below the major headlines and the picture is the belt, strip in the black background, is NJC forestall conflicting rulings, issues guideline on election matters. You'll find that story on page 4, and very quickly to the top right-hand corner, directly below the name marks, you have Lagos-Ibadan rail link to ports, tolls. CCECC demands 124 billion naira balance. You'll find that story on page 22, and next to it, it's strike. Gambari meets ASU today as student protest at APC Secretariat. You also have the painful story from the killing of the Al Jazeera's journalist, one of us, who was covering the incidents around the Gaza Strip. Israeli killing of Al Jazeera's Shireen Abu Akleh sparks outrage, according to the Daily Trust. And you find that story on page 4. And crack among PDP governors over presidential tickets. That's on page 14. And of course, over 40 persons killed during Salah break in Taraba. That's according to the senator representing that side. We'll start off with a major headline, what seemed to have taken over all gossip centers in Nigeria this morning. The story of the directive by the president to members of his cabinet, which does appear like a bombshell yesterday. From the way the day started, none of us had anticipated that it was going to end, if you like, on an interesting note, as it did. With now more than half of his cabinet set to quit. What's your perspective on what had happened yesterday?
Well, is it up to half of the members?
Well,
I don't think it's...
besides the president, a lot of them are not in senatorial and gubernatorial ambition.
Certainly, but so many people actually expected this to
have happened
long ago, because honestly, you cannot combine the two. Looking for the delegates' support and then also running governance. Honestly, I don't think it's something that you can do effectively. One will have to suffer. So what the president did, as far as I'm concerned, is the right thing to do, even though some of the ministers are actually trying to circumvent the process already. You can see from what the labor minister is saying that he will need more clarification from the president. This is the president that has the powers to hire and fire. It doesn't have to do with your constitutional right. He was the one who appointed you in the first place, and this is what he is now telling you, that if you have an ambition, why don't you just drop the ball so that you take care of whatever ambition you have. But there are also others who are not sure of what will happen in the long run. So they are still like dilly-dallying. They don't know, should I continue with it or should I resign? Because if you resign, then that means you are like foregoing all the perks of governance and what have you.
Privileges.
So I think what the president did is the right thing, and the ministers should also comply.
Yeah, talking about the right thing, before my co-anchor comes in, the speed with which some of the ministers resigned yesterday, it appeared like they were anticipating it. It was like, it spoke clearly to the fact that they probably had even abandoned administration. And so when the decision came, it was easy to have just thrown in the papers. They didn't seem to have struggled much. Is this what we should have expected from
you should know what you are going for, and then you should know the best way to go about it. Like what the Minister of State for Education did, there are actually reports saying that he actually resigned way back. Some were saying, I think, on April 28th. He bought the form on the 27th, and then they said he tendered his resignation a day after. But probably because he didn't want to put his colleagues under pressure, maybe he didn't let that out, or he was not able to get the acknowledgement of the president. Probably that was why he stayed back and couldn't announce it earlier. But now that some of them have started coming out to say that they are no longer in the Federal Executive Council, I expect all those who have one or two ambitions to also do the same. And this should not stop at the level of just the cabinet members. You have heads of agencies, you have so many others that are also interested in running for one office or the other. So they should also, I think, resign so that governance will not suffer.
And now, for those cabinet members that seem to be digging their heels and not wanting to budge, what does that say about their credibility?
Well, it's like they don't know what they are after. Probably they're even in the race, not of their own making. Probably they are being pushed by some people to do it. But if you are your own man, you should be able to know what you want. I saw so many of them saying we will have to go back to our constituents to even raise the money. Like, see what the Labour Minister was even saying. He said he budgeted 50 million naira for the form. And then in the end, it cost 100 million naira. And then he's now saying he will have to go back to his people to raise the balance. Actually, I just learned this morning that he's even yet to actually pay for the form. So, and you are still talking about being in the race, you know, you have not bought the form. It's like they are not even serious, and they shouldn't be taken as such.
Amazing. Well, then yesterday we saw the court ruling on Section 84. What is the implication of this ruling on all of the developments around 2023? Yes,
so many papers are reporting it in a light that maybe slightly differs from my own understanding. Okay. So many are saying they have rejected the bill or something like that. But my own understanding of it is the fact that the only thing that they did was to say that the person who went to court over that matter has no reason to do that because he has not shown how he will be affected by it.
Or connected.
But if you look at the substance of that suit, which is to say that that section is against the Constitution, the appeal court actually upheld that. So probably because of this, I will not be surprised, rather, if some of the ministers will want to stay back and see what maybe the Supreme Court will want to decide. But like I said earlier, since the president is now telling you, if you have ambition, just resign so that you face your ambition. That is what they should do.
Well, I think I have an idea of where you might be leaning towards, but I just need to ask it directly. Section 84, subsection 12, what is your own perspective on it? Are you for it? Are you against it?
Well,
as a Nigerian,
I think I'm against it.
Okay.
Because you are like trying to say some category of individuals shouldn't be allowed to also run. Like, see what is happening with the vice president. Because he was elected, he is not affected by the directive of the president. But the others who were appointed by the president, they are now being affected. So why should the law discriminate?
Okay.
They are basically doing the same thing. If the vice president is going around the country trying to get one support or the other, it means along the way, state materials, state resources are also, being used. So the same thing with what we are saying about the ministers. So like the Constitution said, whoever is interested in any position, maybe should resign amount to it so that there is no discrimination.
Including the vice president.
Even the vice president.
Don't you also think that if we have to wait to get to that point, they would have deeply engulfed the state resources before they pull out? At such point, they would have basically achieved their...
Probably we may need to have a new law, that will specify all that so that maybe even if you are going for a second term, at a point you have to resign. It should be across board, not just singling out some people and then allowing others to benefit. Honestly, I don't think that is how the law should work. We are all equal before the law, and we should be treated as such.
While we're still on that matter, I'd just like to get your take on this. A lot of people of the opinion that the president's directive that came yesterday there for these appointees to resign is a little bit too late.
Well, if we are looking at the content of the law that is now in contention, well, I think it's late because if the court should rule that what the National Assembly did is the right thing, then so many contestants will be affected because they have not met the provisions of the law.
So it's a double whammy for people who are going. Slightly shifting away from that issue is what we saw with the Israeli killing of the Al Jazeera journalists. Being one yourself and a member of the Global Guild of Editors, how did this news hit you yesterday?
Honestly, it's quite unfortunate, and it also speaks to the hazard, in the profession. But what I found hard to believe was the fact that, she was donned in her press vest and what have you, clearly showing that this is a journalist. Actually, the Israeli forces, they have not taken responsibility, but they have like admitted the fact that they actually fired the shots that may have led to her death. And you can see probably the United States of America may have to come out strongly in this case, because the person affected is also a citizen of the United States of America. Unlike some people may think if she is only maybe a Palestinian or an Arab, she may not have the support of the United States of America. But this is something that actually journalists around the world should condemn, because whatever affects one, will actually, it's either it has already affected you in a way, or if you allow it to continue, then you may also,
But is this, beyond admitting or explaining the circumstances around her death, is it a failure of understanding the rules of engagement? She has always covered this war. And that is on the one part of it. On the other, we also have Nigerians who contend with this kind of things daily. You go to cover conflict, and one part of the conflict fails, you have given unjust publicity to the other, or even the government not being happy that you bring these issues to the fore in the first place. How do they understand the role of a journalist in conflict reporting?
Well, like during war situations, like they usually say, truth is actually the first casualty. So many of these actors, they don't want their activities reported. So if, as a journalist, you want to cover conflict situations, I think there are two ways to go about it. It's either you go on your own, or you get embedded by one of the parties. If you are embedded, then certainly there is a limit to what you can do, because you may even have to clear your materials before getting them out there. But if you are like going on your own, then the first thing that they will tell you is, we cannot guarantee your safety. And that is, in a way, trying to tell you that if you do something that we don't like, then we can take you out. So honestly, it's actually a double jeopardy for journalists. And actually, the thing is, what journalists are doing is very important. So it's something that we just have to continue despite all the hazard.
So could we see a gradual reluctance now on the part of journalists to cover conflicts?
Certainly, it will affect so many people. Like you said, one thing I remember some of our bosses saying, we don't like heroes. Anytime you see that your life is in danger, try to see what you can do to get out of that danger. Don't say because you just want to perform your role, you are also putting yourself in danger, because you have to be alive to be able to do anything.
Painful, very painful. And today we are hearing from the senator representing Taraba that over 40 persons were killed while we were celebrating the Salah, a period in our nation history where we had just come out from fasting, from a moment of supplication and renewal. How it appears the Taraba case is gradually escalating. We saw a bomb blast go off yesterday, I think it was, close to a military base, which clearly samples an attempt to take down a military formation. Should we be worried by these pockets of attack in Taraba?
Certainly we should be worried, because, like you said, Taraba State, because maybe it doesn't get all the newspaper, the coverage that it deserves. So many things are actually happening without them being reported. So I even saw somewhere that actually the people that were killed should be around 100 or so. And sometimes you actually believe that, because sometimes the government is not like happy when the actual figures are reported, because they think they might cause some reprisals and what have you. But this is not the first time it is happening, and it's gradually becoming like a pattern. They do this, and then the government will condemn. They do it again tomorrow, and then the government. How long can we continue things like this? The government should come out and stamp its authority, because without security, there is.
Is it that the Taraba situation is defiling solutions? It's gradually becoming a Kaduna of sorts. We are now getting to the level where we want to normalize these killings in Taraba, just as we do in Kaduna. If it happens this day and you're around where the news break and they say, where is it? Oh, no, it's Kaduna, it's normal. What can we do? Should it be a government-led approach or a community-led approach? Because it does appear like the Taraba situation is unique. It's more like an ethnic or communal conflict rather than an invasion from outside as we have in the case of Kaduna. What should be the best approach?
Actually, all these terrorists are actually latching on this, to also perpetrate their evil. Because in Taraba State, I actually served in Taraba State like 20 years or so back. And so I know the terrain, and you get all these pockets of, communal clashes and what have you. But they don't get to this level most of the time. So probably the government needs to pay more attention to things that are happening in Taraba State now, because the fact that they have not been happening on this scale, does not mean they don't happen at all. And now that they are happening almost on constantly, so I think the government should worry, and we also should worry. And like you said, the approach should not just be for the government alone. Even the communities, who are the first beneficiary of anything, whether it's peace or development, they should also play a role in this.
All right. Well, I like to steer us away from that and back to what we started discussing. Yeah. That is Nigeria's polity. I mean, like, something just came in right now that I'd love to share. It says that barely 24 hours after dissociating himself from moves by some groups to draft him into the 2023 presidential race, former President Goodluck Jonathan has finally made up his mind to vie for the top spot. Nigeria is set to go to the polls next year in a crowded contest parading many contestants in both the ruling APC and several opposition parties, including the main opposition PDP. Now, on May 9th, Jonathan had rejected presidential expression of interest and nomination forms bought for him by people described as nomadic Fulani pastoralists and Almajiri communities. Now, he was quoted as saying that it was an insult for people to buy the form for him without his consent, but the former president has now made a U-turn on the issue. A dependable source in Jonathan's camp, who pleaded anonymity, said the former president had indeed joined the APC formally and is having registered in his Otwoke ward in Bayelsa. And the source further said that Jonathan was expected to submit his expression of interest form of the APC and nomination form bought for him earlier this week. And according to the source, the former president has secured the support of the required number of APC delegates from across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Now, a quote here from the source revealed that several bigwigs of the party have also been calling Jonathan to pledge their loyalty and support to the former president. That is from the source in the Jonathan camp. So what is your take on this?
Already there are reports saying that even the extension by the ruling APC is actually because of the former president, so that he can actually have the chance to submit his form. But this also shows, that we still have problems with our leadership recruitment process, because a former president, if he has this ambition, and then he has to wait until the last minute. And then why do you even have to deny or reject it in the first place if you know you are actually interested?
Could it be a political tactic?
Probably, because what they are saying, that some governors in the north are actually the ones pushing for his candidacy, and their argument being that the South maybe did only 4 years, and they need to balance up the remaining 4 years. But some are actually saying, no, what they are after is so that power will come back to the north after 4 years. 4 years. So all sorts of things are actually being bandied around because we have given them the opportunity to do all that. But the former president should know that there is nothing that is guaranteed in what he is trying to do. Nobody can give him full assurance that, okay, maybe if you join, you're going to emerge as the candidate of the party and subsequently maybe the president again. Because you were a former president. What you couldn't do while in power should be an idea to you that whoever is coming out with all these assurances may not be telling you the whole truth. So it's something that you should decide on your own, because like so many people are saying, because of what he did in 2015, his reputation, you know, around the globe, not just in Nigeria, people are now respecting him, because it's very unusual for African leaders to just let go of power. And this is something that he was able to do. But now that they are trying to bring him back, I don't know at what point, you know, they were able to convince him. Because for long, if you remember, PDP chieftains have been saying that he has abandoned the PDP, he has not been attending their meetings and all that. So this is something that he should have done much earlier, so that at least Nigerians will know. Okay, because he has the right to do that. There is nothing in the Constitution that said no. Because you were once in the PDP, you can't go to the APC, because if you look at the political terrain, you know, most of the politicians have been in either of the parties. So he should have followed the due process in all this.
And talking about Jonathan, have you taken time to wonder what the language would be, the campaign languages would be, should he see through this ambition? I'm talking about him or even members of the party who had cause to say terrible things about it. Is it just a case of the party members or the aspirants taking Nigerian for granted, or we should no longer believe some of the things they say?
No, I think it's both. You know, politicians. I remember one lecturer at the Bayero University, Kano. That time, I think they were having issues in Kano, and I was sent there to go and do a report. So when I went to him, the first thing he said, let me tell you the truth and then tell you politics. I said, how are the two different? He said, well, politics, what you are saying may not necessarily be true. You just say something that will put you at an advantage. And just like where Governor Umahi said, honestly, I don't know how the APC will look at Nigerians in the face, you know, and try to undo some of the things that
they said
about
haven't blamed the previous administration.
Like they were calling him clueless.
Yes.
And then people are now asking, at what point?
Drunk. Yes.
At what point has he become now?
Where did he get the clue from?
So honestly, it's going to be a serious. Well, we'll wait and see how that happens, because we are not even sure if he will end up being the candidate. You know, we can only hazard a guess for now. But if that should happen, we'll see how they go about that. Certainly it can't be like Mohammed, because he was actually one of those, you know, who were like always throwing all the
Yeah. Interesting. Back again to the newspaper review. This time we'll be looking at the business day, a slight shift away from what the political focus of most national dailies this morning. And the major headline, a very conspicuous one at that, starts with a kicker, International Nurse Day, which is today. Nigeria can't keep nurses it needs. 7,000 nurses, midwife migrate yearly. Excuse me, this is according to the National Midwifery and Council of Nurses. We have seen, I think the medical profession has been the biggest casualty when it comes to professional migration from this country. They seem to be courted from just about everywhere. We saw during the pandemic how some country even boldly sent representatives into this country and were conducting open recruitments to take doctors and nurses out. Are we doing enough, you know, to show that these people are needed here? Because it's not like we have a good ratio of these nurses to citizens in this country. Why has this continued unabated?
Well, there are actually so many things to say about this. The fact that those in charge, you know, usually have the opportunity of seeking medical attention outside the country, they don't really care. I think we are not even serious with issues here in this country. You are talking about nurses. You are talking about health professionals, people that you need their services, and then you are allowing them to just go like that. And if you look at even from the training level, most of these trained nurses and what have you, the government, you know, plays a role in their education. And we just allow them to do whatever they want without like maybe asking them to practice for at least 3 years before proceeding. But because we are not even sincere, we have not been doing the right thing. Somebody will just take what is meant, you know, for a whole community, and then just corner it. And before you know, people will be praising him because he can actually be sending 10,000, 20,000. If the health facilities are actually working, you may not even need him.
True.
Because like all those people going to the politicians, my wife has been delivered of a baby, you know, I have a patient in the hospital. If the hospitals are working, do you have to go to him? You don't. So all these things, honestly, it shows that we are never serious with issues in this country. We are talking about the nurses not being enough, and then still we are not even able to keep the ones that, the few ones that we have, and we have not been able to maybe make a way for others to join the profession, despite the numbers that we have.
We're talking about making a way for others to actually join the profession. ASU has been on strike for for a very, very long time now. And a lot of people actually believe that this is not being taken, given the seriousness that it requires, maybe because this is coming at an election year, all the parties involved are concerned with other things. Is that your own view?
Yeah, like they said, honestly, even though I agree that some of the demands of ASU either have been overtaken by events or actually things that may not be realistic in the long run. But then, this is not the first time it's happening. And see how our employment sector works. You know, before you know it, they will be telling you, no, you are 26, you are too old for this. You are 27, you can't apply for this. And then, for no fault of yours, somebody will just, you know, wake up. Instead of doing the right thing, he will not do it. And then the universities, the lecturers will now come out and cry foul. And then, instead of like looking at the thing holistically, no, we tend to blame the lecturers for always being on strike. Sometimes you wonder, is there any other thing for them to do? Because if there is any other thing for them to do, then we can suggest that for them. So that, because we all want our kids, our brothers, our family members to be in school.
But is the strike actually, is it working? Because ASU has been going on strike for a very long time.
You know one thing with ASU leadership, they are very cantankerous. If you look at the setup, all the former presidents of ASU, I think they are part of the decision-making body. So even if you are maybe negotiating with them, they have to go back to that same, some people see them actually as communists, So they don't actually care. It's either you do what we want, or we also will not give you what you want.
Yesterday, two developments from the same ASU strike. One was the meeting with the Senate President, where he's now saying that the 2009 decision is unrealistic. And the other is a planned meeting today with the Chief of Staff of the President. Why do we have to wait until the students are now disrupting political activities before leaders at this level find it expedient to intervene? And do you see this intervention as being a structured one, or merely just getting them to buy time and simply offload this crisis to the incoming administration?
It's actually because their interests are now being threatened. Because if all this protest should get out of hand, then there may not...
Chances are there.
Even the election may not happen. I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but then... but look at the... we are talking about an agreement signed in 2009.
After nearly 10 years of negotiation.
All the governments, that have... And this is something that was done by the government, and government is supposed to be a continuum. Whether it's... Since there is an agreement on the ground, you should be able to live by that. If you want it to be revoked, why don't you bring them back to the negotiating
We understand
table?
that the 2009 agreement was a revoked agreement, actually. And so without implementing what was reworked, you are now calling for
another negotiation. So that's actually the problem we are having. We are not sincere about governance, like I said, in this country. Why should we be talking about, agreements that we willingly entered into? Honestly, it's not. It doesn't even speak well of governance.
Well, we're still reviewing the papers on Daybreak on Trust TV this beautiful Thursday morning. We'll take a short break right now, and when we return, the analysis of the papers continues. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's the newspaper review on Daybreak on Trust Television. We've been looking at all the developments in the national polity, from politics to education to what have you. The newspaper review continues at this point with our guest in the studio, Mara Nasrullah, the editor-in-chief of Dateline newspaper. The next newspaper for review would be the National Economy. And as with the Business Day, it is strongly taking a look at issues bordering on business and the economy. And the major headline here on the National Economy is Nigeria may lose vehicle import traffic to Benin and Togo ports as custom insists on the implementation of 15% National Automotive Council levy amidst clearing agents' protest. That has been a raging crisis in the last couple of weeks over what the custom agents appear to call a backdoor channel, a backdoor increase on the cost of importing vehicles into Nigeria, and that has caused some serious commotion around the Nigerian port. And we have another major headline on the National Economy newspaper below the picture there. We can't afford exorbitant diesel to transport products. These are distributors of the fuel tanker drivers distributors. Two major developments, if you like, Malam Nasser, on our polity. Let's start with the one below by the tanker drivers. On the one hand, the NNPC is telling us that the shortages we have seen in Abuja and other major cities largely because tanker drivers took a break, as with everybody in Nigeria, and that has caused some break in supply chain management. But on the other hand, the tanker drivers are saying prepare for worst. Who should we believe, really? And they are advancing some of these issues, including having to buy diesel at very exorbitant price, which seem to be eating into their bottom line. Who should we believe at this point?
Well, clearly one of them is not saying the truth. I don't know which for now, yeah. But with time, honestly, we should be able to know who is telling the truth and who is saying otherwise. But remember what happened not long ago when the airlines, threatened to shut down. Before you know it, the NNPC even entered into an agreement that for 3 months, so that they will be buying all the fuel they need at a certain amount. Why can't you do the same thing for the tanker drivers? But because they are not directly affected, in the way that they will have been affected by the aviation problem, you know, so they are now letting it to probably remain unattended. But if the tanker drivers are telling the truth, then we should see the NNPC also coming out to maybe enter into an agreement to help them, so that, because you are worried about the shortage in supply and all that. So why don't you handle that, so that maybe subsequently you can look at other issues that are hampering fuel movement in Nigeria. Another problem is the fact that, you know, the NNPC, or government by implication, has failed to make sure that our refineries are working. You know, we are still relying on importation to service local demands. So, and now that, you know, the dollar is like, has gone haywire, you can hardly afford it without some intervention from the central bank. Honestly,
and even the central bank was saying at its last appearance at the House Committee that they don't even have an extra dollar to spare, because painfully, as we already know, or reported by the major newspapers, it's a windfall globally, but we are not partaking in that windfall, because we basically take everything we earn and plug back into subsidy payment, to the extent that since January, the NNPC has not contributed a farthing to the Federal Account Allocation Committee. But, you know, talking about who to believe, the NNPC has also built a reputation for telling us too many things that we find very hard to believe. The last time, we had to endure nearly a 2 to 3 months difficulty in getting fuel, because every week there seemed to be one explanation, until it ended up with the Ukraine-Russia crisis. And so they took the complaints off the radar of this country, where we said to ourselves, well, at this point it will be everyone to himself and God for us all. But what does this speak to generally as a country, to come out and say we produce fuel, and then somehow 70% of what we produce is stolen right here in this country, with all the security networks and everything, and we are not able to stop all of this problem? What does this speak to the issue around the NNPC, especially given that the president is the Minister of Petroleum? Is there no way out of this quagmire?
There should be ways out of it, but are we actually following those ways? That's maybe what we should be asking. The NNPC should know that, probably because Nigerians hardly follow up on these issues, but like you said, they have made all the excuses you can think of. There is nothing on this that they have not said, you know, that is responsible for the shortage and things like that. But where are we? If you look at the filling stations now, the queues are back. So many people cannot buy fuel because of the same problem that we keep having. And Nigeria being, you know, like solely reliant on petrol products for our earnings, honestly, we should have done the right thing. Not just this administration, I mean, you know, right from all the governments that have, you know, passed, because the refineries we have are not working. Even the quota we have from OPEC, we can't meet it. And then it's not as if this thing is not there. No, it's there. But some people are actually benefiting. And the government knows. Because believe me, there is no way you can be stealing something like crude oil.
And a substantial skill.
And then the government will not know. They know. But probably because they have succeeded in compromising all those who should be, you know, like vanguard. The vanguard. So where are we? Honestly, this is very.
Before he takes his question, let me attempt to play the devil advocate at this point.
Okay.
Why is it difficult that in the face of all of this crisis, not a single person has lost his job? Is that such a difficult thing for the principals to do, that you can't keep coming to the table with an excuse? If I am your staff and every day you send me to the field, I come back to tell you the reason why I can't generate a report. What is how do I justify keeping my job and drawing from the purse? Because despite not making money for this country, the allowances are not being owed. They take their vacations everywhere around the world. How are you able to meet those obligations without meeting your primary target? Why are they still keeping their jobs?
Well, if you're talking about that, then I think the first casualty should be the president, because he is the minister of petroleum. If we have maybe a different minister, then the president can say, okay, maybe he has not been acting the way I expect him to do. He has not been playing according to rules and what have you. But this one, you are the one in charge. So if there is a problem, you are the one to handle it. But because, you know, the president has been living in denial for quite some time. In the beginning, he said there was no subsidy. And then before you know it, you know, all government officials are all over the place telling us why we need to remove subsidy. Something that was never there. How do you remove it?
And then they succeeded in removing multiple times. And
yeah, because they, you know, they came up with so many things on the recovery. Subsidy in the actual sense of the word. But like you said, because Nigerians hardly pay attention to all these things, people are allowed to continue. If you go to the refinery in Kaduna, I don't know the last time the flaring. You see the flaring, you see the last time it was there. But all those working on that same refinery, like you said, are collecting their salaries. Nothing is being owed. So honestly, it's because we are allowing people to run away with murder. That's why things like this are continuing.
Well, certain conspiracy theorists are putting forward the fact, because we discussed this with Sunday earlier, are putting forward the fact that all this scarcity is just being created as a tactic to increase fuel price without actually increasing fuel price. You understand? People actually believe that, okay, fine, if they make these things scarce enough, people will be willing to buy at any price. They can get it in as much as it's available.
Yeah, one of the places where I have a very good understanding, I think, is Kaduna State. If you go to Kaduna State, most of the major oil marketers, you will see that they are not selling. But if you go along the bypass, you know, on the expressway, if you are ready to pay 190, 200, you get fuel without any, like in few seconds, few minutes, you are able to buy your fuel. So they are actually doing that the other way, because people are now paying more for petroleum products, which the government had been trying to do unsuccessfully. So now they are coming maybe through the back door, because they are also the ones that are running these businesses, whether we like it or not. Most of these fuel companies, transport companies that you see are actually owned by people in government, or are really connected or linked to people in government.
Interesting. One of the stories we also had to pick this morning was the stoppage of the rail line, the connection between the Apapa port and I think is it the Iduma, not Idumota now, the main rail headquarters in Ibutimeta in Lagos. A critical infrastructure that we thought would have taken care of the gridlock in Apapa by bypassing all of the limited channels that are available and straight taking those containers out of the port, in a way also reducing the congestion around the port, and also critical to the dry port infrastructure in Ibadan, which is supposed to also restrict the heavy vehicular movement into Lagos, all in a bid to go and take, now stalled because of a balance of 124 billion from the federal government. Is it that we do not have an understanding of how critical these infrastructures are, and that they should be, if you like, on some kind of first-line charge when it comes to expenditure spending, that we do all of these things? Or it's just basically the quest for 2023 taking over and pushing everything below the radar?
Actually, from the way things are going, we will be left with so many uncompleted projects. We have tried the e-call-up and so many, it's like it has defied solution. And like you said, even the cost of governance in Nigeria, there are so many things we can actually achieve if we are able to
keep cost low.
Because you are see what all these governors are doing. You know, they are still moving in large convoys, you know, retinue of aides that you don't even need. They are just guzzling up all the few resources that we have And then you also expect things like this to happen. Honestly, there is no way we can achieve that with the mindset, with the happenings that...
Talking about cost of governance, we were having this conversation earlier. I mean, just look at Zamfara. Yesterday, it was distributing Cadillac vehicles, American branded Cadillac vehicles to emirs and village. And then a couple of days later, we are hearing that they had not registered a single student for WAEC. And you tell yourself which should actually take precedence, the future of the state, of the workforce, or merely providing Cadillac for a place where the roads are not passable because bandits have practically taken over government.
That's not only it, because some of all these traditional rulers, they can't even go to their domains. So what will they be using the cars for? And even if you look at it, there is a governor also, that is actually running for president. His state is one of those affected by the WAEC thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you justify that? You have not been able to do little things.
Very basic things.
Something that maybe all you need to do is to maybe channel the amount that you use to junket all around.
Or even buy the form. Or even buy the form for...
And nobody... Because politicians actually used to do that.
Yes.
And they count that as part of their achievements. I've been able to register so many students for WAEC. And it's quite unfortunate.
Maybe some people actually believe, maybe that's why some of these people that are currently in power right now are unable to really come up with some sort of manifesto as to what they plan to do when they eventually get to these positions that they're saying they're getting. Because I really haven't seen or heard any governor come to say, okay, when I become president, this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do, or look at what I have done and this is what I'm going to do. Maybe that's what was thought, because they have nothing to show?
Yeah, because they don't have any plan. The plan is to get there and then get access to state resources and then do as you like. Because the first thing that they do after being elected is to say that all these promises that people were making up and down,
we're not theirs.
I was not responsible for it. So how do you justify things like that? Honestly, it's very bad. Very bad for the government.
Before we let you go, I would like you to react on one more story, and this is coming from the Nigeria. It has quite a number of stories on its front page. A number of them we have had the opportunity to review in the course of our conversation with our guest analyst. But just this one, 10 million Nigerian girls out of school, says UNICEF. 10 million in addition to those ones that have now been stopped from going to school, because it appears that in the Northwest particularly, that the schools are the most dangerous places you could have your kids. What does this portend for this country as your parting words for us this morning?
Well, I think to start with, the number must be much higher than that. But I know UNICEF, they rely on the data that they are able to gather. But unless we educate women, I think we should forget about eradicating poverty. Because most of these little things that happen in the community, the women are actually responsible. If you want maybe to barb your head, you go to your mother, not your father. So many little things. So without empowering women, honestly, we should forget about anything poverty eradication. And how do you empower the women? By getting them educated, by giving them all the opportunities that they can, soar higher, because they also have the capacity, they also have the capability to do exactly what most of the men we have in position of governance are actually doing. So, like I said, without empowering our women, without educating them, we should forget about any poverty eradication.
What a fitting way to bring this conversation to a close. It's been a moment of deep reflection, if you like, from editor and boss. And in journalism, once a boss, always a boss. We wish you well for your remaining endeavors as you go about your activities. Amidst the scarcity, I hope you have some fuel to drive around town, to drive around town in Abuja. He has said it all, the need for us to preserve and educate our women and especially, lacing it with the fact that they've got the capacity to achieve their highest potentials with the right kind of education, something the government should take very serious, as a word on a marble coming from Nasir Lawa. We thank you very much for sparing time to be with us in the studio, and we hope that when we call on you again, you will find time to come here and provide more perspective to
Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. This is where we will take a short breather, and when we return, the program continues. Please stay with us.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. It's a beautiful Thursday morning, and we welcome you to the show. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
Good morning. I am Sunday Michael Ogu. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the final lap of Daybreak on Trust Television.
All right, so we'll go straight into the headlines. PDP NEC dumps zoning, throws open contest for presidential ticket.
ASU strike, 2009 agreement unrealistic, Senate President.
And still talking education, are tertiary institutions bedeviled by corruption, says NUC boss.
And the news in details. The National Executive Council of the People's Democratic Party has opted to throw the contest for its presidential ticket open rather than zone it to a particular region of the country. National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Debo Ologunagba, announced this decision on Wednesday while briefing reporters at the party secretariat in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, after the NEC meeting. He informed reporters that the decision was part of the resolution reached at the end of the 96th PDP NEC meeting, which was well attended by various party leaders. At the meeting, the PDP NEC also adopted Saturday, May 28 to Sunday, May 29, 2022, and chose Abuja as the venue for its presidential primary as well as special convention. And the party also chose former Senate President David Mark to head the organizing committee.
Now, Senate President Ahmed Lawan yesterday described the 2009 agreements the federal government reached with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, as unrealistic. He spoke at the National Assembly in Abuja during a meeting with the leadership of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, facilitated by founder Vision Africa and the Bishop Methodist Diocese of Umuahia, Sunday Onuoha. Now, ASU has been on strike since February 14, demanding, among other things, that the government implement the agreements reached with it. Lawan asked the NANS to shelve its plan to disrupt political activities in Abuja, saying the National Assembly would intervene. He also called on ASU to suspend the strike, saying there is no way they can negotiate when they are on strike. I want to promise you that we'll push from the legislative angle so that together we'll resolve this issue, he added.
And still staying with the educational sector, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Universities Commission, Professor Abubakar Rashid, has said higher institutions in the country are bedeviled by corruption. He spoke in Abuja on Tuesday at the maiden meeting of the National Youth Service Corps Management with registrars of corps-producing institutions in Nigeria. He also blamed academic instability on lack of uniform calendar for institutions to run their activities. Registrar Joint Matriculation Board Professor Ishak Oloyede said between 2017 and 2021, about 1 million candidates were illegally admitted into the institutions. He said corruption and illegal admission occurred in state higher institutions because state governments established them without having funds to run them. Oloyede said JAM has yet to release the 2022 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination result because of some internal appraisal issues.
And that wraps up the news headlines for this leg of Daybreak on Trust TV. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll dive straight into our first discussion of the day. Do stay with us.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. Now, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has actually warned of the possibility of the worst case of fuel scarcity ever in the country. However, IPMAN said the scarcity can be averted only if the federal government prevailed on the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to pay 500 billion naira bridging claims by its members. Now, they explained that the failure of the agency to pay the bridging claims, otherwise known as transportation claim, had forced many of their members out of business as they couldn't transport the commodity due to high cost of diesel. They added that non-payment of the claims by the agency for over 8 months had crippled the businesses of many of their members as they cannot transport the commodity even though it is available. Now let's take a look at this situation as we have in the studio the Vice President of the Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria, Abubakar Megandi, to discuss more on the issue. You're welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
All right, sir.
Welcome.
It's nice to have you on the program.
Thank you.
All right, so the current fuel scarcity being experienced now, we've had conflicting stories. Some say it's because of the break that we went on, cellular break, that there was no supply. Some say it's because of the bridging that we just talked about now. So what actually is the situation?
Well, just as you have seen, there is serious scarcity here in Abuja and other parts of the country. And the problem that we are having, there are almost getting to 3 major problems that we face in the industry. But the biggest one is about the payment of transportation fare. Because our agreement with the government, at every week, they will pay our bridging claim. But now, over 8 months to 12 months, we have unpaid bridging claim. And this thing make most of our marketers to run into bankrupt. They cannot be able to purchase the product to bring them to their various filling station and sell. Because at present, the midstream and downstream regulatory agency, they are owing independent petroleum marketers over 500 billion naira. And this money that they are owing, not because we marketers, we didn't pay our own due, because we contributed. This money is our money. It's not a government money. Before you purchase any product, you have to pay this certain amount of percentage for transportation. And we have paid. So actually, that is the reason why you have been seeing this scarcity is going. This is one of the reasons. The second reason, the NNPC itself is not a helping matter. Because all the decisions that they have been taking in terms of petroleum distribution, we independent marketers who cover 80% of retail outlet nationwide, we are not involved. They highly depend on major marketers and DAPMAN. They supply products.
Means depot owners?
Depot owners. They supply this product to the depot owners, and they tell us to go through the depot owners and buy the product from them. Instead of dealing, IPMAN to deals directly with the NNPC, we have to go through the depot owners. And these depot owners, they give us this product at a higher rate, above the government stipulated rate. If we buy this product, we add, together with our bridging cost, it makes us very difficult to come inside the cities and sell this product at the rate of 165 because of the higher cost.
Is that the reason why when you step out of the cities, you see the product at 200, 250 per liter?
Very good. It's part of the reason. Because some of them, they source this commodity above what the government say they should buy from the depot owners, since they are not getting through the NNPC. And if you say you will follow the NNPC channel to source this product, it may take you 3 months to 4 months before you get a single truck. And normally they operate their portal. It is only those that they wish to buy the product, is those that people that will buy product direct from them. If they don't want you to buy, there is no way you can be able to purchase.
No,
so you talk about the third,
go.
So that he finishes third. You talked about 3, so let's take the final.
Then the third one, just the way the GMD have said, there is a break session, which it takes some days. So that one too has contributed, but it's just a significant figure, maybe 1%. But actually that one is not the main reason. The main reasons is these 2 that I have mentioned.
So you made mention of depot owners coming in between you and the NNPC, that you have to buy these products from them. But are they still independent marketers that actually buy these products directly from the NNPC?
Yes, you know, it's independent marketers are buying directly from they will not allow us to buy direct from them. They will collaborate with the depot owners. They sell this product to the depot owners, then we go and buy through the depot owners. at a higher rate, not at a government rate. Try to understand me.
Okay. The issues with buying through the depot owners we would properly examine as we go on with the show. You, in your own explanation, alluded to the fact that you pay some money to the government for transport. Now you expect a bridging claim. The money you pay to the government is paid to who? Just to understand, why would they charge you transport and then in turn you have to then ask for a refund of transport? How is this whole
okay, you know, it's a channel because the government has already made it compulsory that in each and every part of the country, the product has to be sold at a regulated rate.
Okay.
So that is why the government said, okay, they form a pool. That is what is called Petroleum Equalization Fund. That wherever you are in the country, you have to contribute that amount of money. So that those who are carrying it in a far distance, they will be compensated. So that they too, the way you sell product in Lagos, you will sell it at the same price in Maiduguri.
Okay.
That is what is really happening. And they will not allow us to take any product till we pay such amount of money. And our agreement with them, at end of every week, they will pay.
So are you people in any kind of negotiation with the NNPC that promises to say, okay, we'll pay this money tomorrow or we'll pay next week, or this is the reason why we have not paid?
That is what the executive director has been telling us always. He will, even now when you call him, he will tell you that he has been paying. And somebody, the person that you are owing maybe, let's say 300 million naira, and you pay him 1 million naira. Is this a payment? It's not a payment. Because you tied down his capital, you refuse to allow him to go and purchase another product and come and sell. And you know, we marketers were even assisting. Part of the money that they are paying us is not up to the money that we are supposed to get for our actual transportation. Like now, because of this cost of diesel now, if you carry your truck from Lagos, at least a minimum diesel that you will buy to Abuja is 700,000, diesel alone. And what the government used to pay us is 600,000. Including everything, they pay you 600,000.
So you need 700,000 worth of diesel to move from Lagos to Abuja?
To Abuja.
That will be how many liters?
That is 1,100.
Interesting. So, is it that the NNPC is not aware that the depot owners sell to you at a higher price, and therefore it would affect the prices you would in turn sell to the retail outlet?
They are very, very aware. There is nothing secret about that. Even a local man, when you go to any depot, you ask the price, they will tell you. The government is aware. If a local man will go to the depot and confirm the price, they will tell him. Then how about the government?
So
the NNPC, they are very aware. It's just a cartel. They work together with these depot owners and major marketers. And these people, they buy this product credit. We independent marketers, we buy it on cash and carry basis to them.
So is there was there any agreement between you and the NNPC concerning the way and manner that you can be able to purchase these products? You know, is there anything written that, okay, you have to buy from these depot owners, or there's any other way that you can actually do this?
No, we don't have it. Do you know, normally we independent marketers, we have an agreement direct with the NNPC. We have our bulk purchase agreement. They accepted that we are going to do the business together, and it's an act by the government, independent petroleum marketers.
So, right now, what is the way forward? You have tabled three things. One of them you said is not major. The other one is the issue with the depot people. And then most importantly, this bridging fund. What kind of commitments are you looking for government? Because obviously, you know, this scarcity is impacting everything and everybody. The economy is suffering seriously. I'm sure if you were not from Ipman, you probably wouldn't have gotten fuel to come to the station this morning to talk to Nigerians. What can we do to ameliorate the sufferings on the ordinary Nigerians?
Well, what we can do is just very simple. Let the government agencies be on decks. Let them do the right thing.
Which is?
Which is to pay the marketers their dues whenever they do the transportation.
So at what point, is it 8 months ago that this whole problem started? I mean, they stopped paying. Did they complain that it was because of lack of funds or just an unwillingness to pay?
Well, actually, we didn't know the reason. Because you cannot contribute a money. You know you contribute cash. And this person said he will pay you at the end of every week when you bring your truck. And now up to 12 months, we are not getting the payment. The only thing when we shout like this, they will just stand up and pay. Maybe if you are having 20 way bill, they will just come and pay you one way bill.
So right, you're tying. You said this is the major problem now. The lack of this payment.
It's major problem.
So now.
Then the second one that I tell you, I say the problem
owners.
through the NNPC.
Yes.
The way they share the product, the distributing pattern of the product.
Okay. All right. So right now, are you saying that if these monies are not paid, that there's no end in sight to the current scarcity?
We, not doing the business as a business people, we are losing. And it's affecting us seriously. But when you doesn't have the capital to go and purchase, what can you do? And they said this thing, you have to buy it cash and carry to bring it to your filling station and sell.
So basically, there's no end in sight.
There is no end. Because even if we went to end it, how will you end it? Most of us rely on the banks. The banks are always running up and down to see their money is moving.
The other question I will ask you is to be able to take care of this problem in the medium to long term. Do you think this country can sustain the Petroleum Equalization Fund? Are we able to ensure always that fuel must sell in Maiduguri, for instance, the same price that it sells in Lagos?
Yes. It's a pool. We tell the government since, if you people, you cannot be able to manage, let's manage it by ourselves. Instead of telling me I must pay 7 naira 50 kobo per every liter, then allowed me not to pay that money.
If you don't pay the money, how are you then going to ensure that fuel sells in Maiduguri for the same price?
You will get it like that, because if we come and check about the cost that we are having, like now, as we know the diesel is cost, then the government should come and do something like palliative.
Are we not saying the same thing? Pool payment, palliative, subsidy? It's all the government controlling the same funding that never comes.
You know what is there? No government will allow their masses to suffer.
You know why I'm saying this? If you say you will manage by yourself and you are telling us it takes you 1,100 liters or 700,000 to get to Abuja, the distance between Abuja and Maiduguri is the same thing as Abuja and Lagos. That means it will cost you about 1.2 million, 2,200 liters to get to Maiduguri from Lagos. How are you going to recover that from that cost and sell at the same price as you sell in Lagos?
You know what is there? Since the government has decided, this is how they want all Nigerians to get their fuel. So the alternative is either the government should come inside or they should create another program entirely instead of killing the business. Like now, most of the independent petroleum marketers now, if you go around in Abuja, you cannot see them selling. And you know how cost the construction of petroleum station in Abuja is. And any filling station that you see here in Abuja, any minimum staff that you will get, a minimum is 20. And you have to pay them.
So basically now, what should Nigerians expect with this current situation? What should Nigerians actually do? Did Nigerians have anything to look forward to?
Any hope?
Well, you know, all those things, we have always said this is our major problem that we are facing in the industry. Then the government should work toward it. By the time when the government pay all marketers their bridging claim, despite the fact that they are a little bit losing in terms of their transportation, they will engage in the business. Because most of us, our filling stations are in our locality and in the other cities. And we fully rely on the masses of our area. So our brothers and sisters now, in most of the cases, you will go there and see them doing nothing. How do you expect the economy of the country to improve when we are losing the labor for the masses?
Quite a touchy one there from a guest in the studio this morning. We have been talking with the Vice President of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Malam Abubakar Megandi, who has shed a bit more light on what we have experienced in the last couple of weeks in Abuja and the way forward as far as the Ipman group is concerned. Thank you very much, Alhaji,
thank you
for
very
coming
much
to the studio. We hope that in the coming days, yourself, your people, and the government will reach an amicable resolution so that life can be better for every Nigerian. Once again, have a very delightful Thursday.
Thank you very much.
We will take a short breather, and when we return, the show continues. Stay with us.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Every patriotic Nigerian should hear this. Any politician who means well for the people will never allow themselves or their supporters to engage in any violent, destructive activities. No politician who truly wants to serve the people and develop the nation will encourage his followers to destroy properties or take human lives before, during, or after the elections. The Nigerian public must watch out for these traits and isolate any politician who encourages supporters to engage in violence. No genuine politician or patriot will cause trouble and seek to destroy the very society which they aspire to lead or develop. Politicians who have the good of the people at heart will not allow themselves or their followers to engage in violence, destruction of properties, and then taking of lives. Be vigilant. By their words you shall know them. Shun violence. Stay away from politicians who want you to do so. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and we are winding down gradually with a series of conversation as it borders on issue on the national polity. President Muhammadu Buhari has asked all members of the Federal Executive Council contesting elective positions in 2023 to resign. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, announced this while briefing State House reporters on the outcome of the Federal Cabinet meeting presided over by Buhari at the Council Chamber of the Presidential Villa in Abuja. He said the ministers have been given up till May 16, 2022 to quit the Cabinet, and added that only Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, as an elected official, was exempted.
Aspiring to run for office, either be it president or governor or National Assembly, must resign from cabinet effectively by the 16th, which is Monday of this month.
With the president's directive, about 9 ministers, if you like, have the options of either resigning or dropping their ambitions. Already 2 ministers, Emeka Nwajuba of the Ministry of Education and Godswill Akpabio, the Minister of Niger Delta, have tendered their resignation in compliance with the president's directive. We now have in the studio a public affairs analyst and a friend of the House, Mr. Jide Ojo, and a legal advisor, a legal practitioner, Mr. Barrister Dare Owolabi, to discuss these issues and take a deep dive into some of the dramas that we saw yesterday. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
I like the seeming contrast in the outfit. I'm sure Mr. Jide would have come in with an Igbo title today. spotted the red cap. But that's just by the way. Starting with you, just to my immediate right, Barrister Owolabi. Prior to the President directive yesterday, there were a number of agitations on the basis of morality, some would say, or decency, if you like, that this action should have been taken long before now. How would you summarize what had happened yesterday, with regards to how, in the light of what should be the right thing to do?
Well, I love the language you use, decency. Political actors in Nigeria lack it. That's just my simple response to that. There are crimes in this world today. Let's take a particular example of the United Kingdom. The parliament in the United Kingdom has absolute power. But because of the tradition of the political actors that is entrenched in good conscience, the absoluteness of their power will not be put in use. So, like I mentioned here earlier, one of the interviews I granted here, it is unfortunate that these aspirants need to wait until the president directed them to resign in the face of a well-couched provision of electoral acts. I'm referring to section 84 sub 12. Notwithstanding the decision of the Federal High Court in Umar here, which, of course, when the law is very simple, it's very clear on this. When a decision of a court is appealed, that decision is in abeyance until the apex court, until the upper court either affirms or dismiss it. So what one would have expected that people who really want to govern Nigeria in good conscience ordinarily shouldn't be forced.
You know, you are the one explaining this, but the chief law officer was the first to come out to say we are going to gazette the position.
Because he's a beneficiary of that judgment from that forum shopped judgment from the federal courts in Umuahia.
Right. So, so let me come to you and ask this question. I asked it earlier, but I just want to get your own perspective about it. Some ministers have actually started resigning, and some have seemingly dug in their heels to say, either not say anything or say, I'm not going anywhere until I consult my people and all that. What does that go to, how does that point to the morality or otherwise of such an elected person, or the credibility of that person? And this is someone that is saying, okay, I want you to come and elect me into a position so that I can do something, you know?
Thank you for the opportunity to be on your program. In fact, when some people describe Nigeria as a banana republic, these are the kind of instances that they will cite to buttress why they characterize the country as a banana republic. In Sender climes, did you know that a minister, commissioner, special advisor, senior special assistant, and all of that, they serve at the pleasure of the president? It does not have to even give you reason for dropping you. Ngige is saying he's going to consult his constituent, he's going to meet with the Mr. President. Who is he? Who is he? It's systems like this that throw up such characters. You know, I'm really very, because here you have been a governor, you have been a senator, you have been a minister. What else? You want to be the president. And the president, in no uncertain terms, have asked you to go. You said you are going to be consulting your constituent. Did you consult your constituents before you accepted the appointment to say, oh, should I accept or should I not accept? The bottom line is this: we are experiencing culture of impunity. And as I said in many interviews I granted yesterday, the president is to blame. I blame the president. Many of the governors over 1 month ago have asked their aides to resign. Commissioners in Ganduje, the Delta State governor, many of them have asked they didn't wait for secretary. They are not even citing any section of the law. Because, look, which section of the law the president cites to drop Minister of Power and Agriculture last September 1? Did he cite Section 84? It just simply said he is no longer in need of their service. They serve at the pleasure. They don't have a tenure. A president can appoint you as a minister in the morning and do away with you in the afternoon of that day. Nothing, you can't challenge it in court. It's different from statutory positions. Like Emefiele is dancing around. In fact, I've read it in the papers today that he has submitted his presidential nomination for. After saying that he didn't ask those people to go and procure when he was, after consulting God, he will use his own hard-earned money to procure. Where did he submit the same form that was allegedly procured for him?
He probably has an arrangement to reimburse those who have procured it, maybe as a way of seemingly progressing. But coming to you, Barrister Olabi, and drawing from the comments that were made by Mr. Jide, should this directive only stop with members of the Federal Executive Council? Because we know it is an open secret that there are head of agencies scattered around everywhere in the capital city that have shown interest in the next election, either as members of House of Rep or even governors. They are sitting there. Should we, even though they are statutory appointments that were confirmed by the Senate, is it also not morally wrong that they continue to occupy that office while they look for another?
It's not even only morally wrong. It is also legally wrong. As it is now, The law as it is now is that Section 84 sub 12 subsists.
Yes.
So if you're a political appointee, whether at the state level or federal level, if you are caught up with the provisions of that act and you refuse to do the needful, of course, subsection 13, sub 13 of that section applies. And INEC knows what to do, which is the fact that your name will not be included in the election.
One of the points that were pointed out by the guests that came in a bit earlier was, even with the presidential directive, it does appear that those resigning have already flouted the provisions of that rule by having to resign a number of days before the primary. Is this not a double whammy for the people who are there?
Interestingly, there is no timeline given to them in that provision.
Okay.
There's no timeline given to them. The section refuses to say anything in respect to when they're expected to resign. The only section of the law that mentions time, which is 30 days, is 66, the section 66 of the Constitution. Electoral Act did not mention any particular time.
So which of them should take precedence?
But what has also happened is that the electoral guideline of APC has said if you are going to contest, you have to resign 30 days to the primaries. Okay. So the guidelines of the party has put a date. And I'm waiting, because from this week, maybe from today, there will be screening panels sitting. That's where you will see the party will be wielding the big sticks. Because I learned reliably that there are a number of checklists you have to meet.
Including this one?
Including, yes. Your letter of resignation is part of what will be looked at. So your tax clearance, your letter of resignation, your last held position, and all of that. So there is a provision. There is a long list of provisions. We are just looking at the monetary. Oh, he paid 100 million. Like issue of delegates, you have to have 370 delegates supporting your candidacy for it to be valid. So you could see, in fact, papers reported this morning. Tinubu support group submitted for him. Oshibajo yesterday has submitted. And we are learning that Goodluck Jonathan is also, maybe our incoming president, is also submitting. After initially denying. You know, what shocks me is the nature and character of our political class. They are so shameless. They do not have a sense of decency. They do not have a sense of decorum. They are ready to contradict themselves even the very second after they have spoken. Because, okay, look at Emefiele now. Why we were Emefiele who came out and said, look, I didn't ask anybody. And this is what I wrote about in my column in the Punch yesterday, which I elucidated the issue of third-party funding, third-party campaign finance, which is what they sorry. It might well be the same person who will funnel the money to those phantom groups to go and do it on their behalf. If it is true that someone like Goodluck Jonathan, from what I was reading on NAN's website, that some African leaders prevailed on him. We all know. You need to watch the video of the Fulani group that bought him the form. They were so assertive. He said, look, whether he wants to take it or not, we have procured the form for him. Now we heard that he has registered in the Sotoke ward. Now we heard he's going to be submitting his form today. This is the same person that said, look, I never knew this group. I don't have anything to do with this dissociating and all. So when you look at the nature and character of Nigerian politicians, it's not peculiar to us, I must say this. It's a global phenomenon because even there's what is called barrier politics. And, you know, our politics is essentially transactional. It's very transactional. There is a trending joke on social media, maybe you've read it. Invest 100 million and get 500 million on May 30th. You know, you know, because they are all traders. They are trading. They are all traders. Many of them. I tell you, and take my word for it, if Jonathan truly is in this race, that's the next president.
Well,
if truly, no, I'm saying this, I'm sticking out my neck. If truly is in this race, and we know the permutation. The permutation for some time is that this issue of power shift the North is under pressure to allow power to shift to the South. And they are looking for somebody who, whether he says it or he doesn't say it, cannot stay more than one term. So this man will stay one term, power will come back to
I think that is one way to look at it amid several permutations that we seem to have seen with regards to this president. You were going to say something?
Yes, I wanted to bring us back to Section 84. Okay. Some people have pointed out a flaw, or some have pointed it out that maybe it needs to be rejigged so that it can actually provide the level playing ground that it seeks. Because most people are saying that, okay, fine, we need these political office holders to resign so that they cannot use state funds to run campaigns and whatnot, which puts everybody on an even keel. But we just heard that due to the provisions of that particular section, the vice president is exempt. And we all know he's running for president. Now, if all these ministers that are running for president as well, we say they resign because we don't want them to use state funds, what about the vice president?
Well, the vice president is accepted from the provisions of that electoral act. But I will go back to what I said here about a month ago, that in my own personal opinion, if you ask me, I will tell you that the National Assembly should take a bold step to amend the Constitution itself to include this provision. I think that's the right thing to do. And there wouldn't be anything wrong if they equally move forward to include those who are holding elected positions, like governors. What is wrong if you ask them to hand over to the most senior civil servant in their state 3 months before election? If they win, you swear them in again and they continue from where they stop. What is wrong in that? What we are trying to talk about here is that you create a level playing field for political actors to play. If you, for instance, you see the way these governors move around in private jets, whose fund are they using? Whose fund are they using? They're using public fund. So that has already put them, giving them an advantage over other aspirants who don't hold similar positions that they are occupying at the moment. So ask them to resign 3 months to the election. If you are popular, let us be on the same level and to contest election. If people want you, they re-elect you. Of course, you start from where you stop. It's as simple as that.
Let me come to you, Mr. Jide. Away from the action, as a political analyst, what do you think will happen to the field now? Because the talk before now has been whether or not this government will have the balls to ask its people to resign. And so they've been behaving as though all you needed as an endorsement is the fact that you are serving and you just move from one elective position or appointed position to another. Now that this has taken full effect, how would it change the current political circumstances that we see in the country with regards to the level playing field that Barrister has talked about?
Truth be told, the playing field cannot be level altogether. There will be some rough patches, but we are saying let's smoothen it as best as we can. I will not toe the line. You know, it's only Bangladesh that I know or heard that will ask its elected official to resign ahead of contesting for re-election or stuff like that. Not even in U.S. I mean, in U.S., if you are a sitting president, you are seeking re-election, you stay put. So for that category of elected official, it might be very dicey because when you say leave for 3 months, that means governance will cease for that period. The Constitution does not empower acting PAMSEC, to be a governor, acting as a governor. Even the case of speakers standing in for the post-governors, we saw the shenanigans that takes place within that 90 days before another election in the case of impeachment and all of that. So by and large, the level cannot be smooth, 100%. But for this category of people that we are high, it is a shame because it's a grace and honor and a privilege for you to be appointed to serve as a minister or special advisor or commissioner or special assistant, whatever you are called. Out of 200 million plus, these are people who are, in fact, there is a trending news doing calculations of how long some of these people have stayed in government. Someone like Amechi have never done any work in his life. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know where he has ever worked. After graduating from school, jumped into politics, became speaker for 8 years, moved from speaker 8 years, became governor for 8 years, moved from being a governor for 8 years, became minister for 7 years now. So some people, like Achebe says, some people have their ghosts cracking their kernel for them. The same thing with someone like Ahmed Lawa, from House of Reps to Senate in almost 23 years. He's been there. But those are exceptions. And I'm not envying them. Just like Matthew Mbu, from very tender age, was in government for a very long time. So there are those exceptions to the rule. But the bottom line is this. If you know you have the capacity to aspire for higher office, the bottom line is not to say you cannot run. Please just leave the seat. Let's look at the impact of their staying put in the last 1 month. Which file will Amechi say he has attended to since he began this journey of consultation in the last close to 2 months? The train mishap in Kaduna took place March 28th. I think a week after is when he declared. And since that time, he's been moving from one state to the other, meeting with delegates, meeting with traditional rulers, as if traditional rulers are going to be delegates voting for him.
But it has always been the tradition that when you consult, you also talk.
Now, the consultation should be surreptitious. You can use your weekend to do consultation. You can do consultation on phone. Not that you abdicate your primary responsibility.
Some are even arguing that you should consult before you declare.
Exactly. That's the right way to do it. I agree with that school of thought. Consult first, like the case of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Instead of him to first consult, he went to the president. After meeting with the president, now started meeting with other stakeholders.
Perhaps that is a consultation.
but even Ahmed Yerima went to meet with the president last week. He said he has gone to consult. But you see, the president has only one vote. No matter what, yes, it may be very influential, but this Buhari I know, with due respect to him, even if 200 of you want to have it, he will say you have my backing. But he will only reveal his preferred candidate maybe a week or a day to the COCO. The bottom line is this. Let's look at, like I said, what impact these people have made. They have lowered governance quotient in the last 2-3 months of their declaring for this position. Because many of them have not sat at their table to attend to files. And it is very important that the last 1 year of this administration should be impactful. Look at how much we have borrowed to run this government. 4 trillion subsidy. 4 trillion for the first time in the history of this country. This country is investing 4 trillion on petroleum subsidy alone. ASU is asking for his own share. He's not gotten it. So many other things. If there is no governance breakdown, if these people, in spite of their consultation and all of that, if they are still attending to their official duties, it might not be too much of an issue for me. But the fact that they have, look at the governors. Almost all the governors that have declared to run, you won't find them in their state. They are either in Abuja or visiting those delegates all over the place. And that is bad for governance. Because a country like this that is underdeveloped, that is not on its way to meeting any of the SDG, any of the 70 SDG, I don't know where we are. We have 8 years left on that SDG 2030. We are not on the way to meeting any of those SDGs. But we have people either elected or appointed who behaves like the Lord of the Manor, like Emperor, like they are doing you a favor, even serving you, with all the perks of office. And there is something many Nigerians are missing. when they are doing computation that, oh, they are paying 100 million and the entire salary of a president in 4 years is 56 million. Who tells you they live on salary? By the grace of God, these are millionaires, billionaires. There is no governor in Nigeria that is not a billionaire. I tell you for free.
Even if you can't show us any company.
No. You know, let me put it to you, Sunday. Look, I took it. I never knew they were that rich before until Rocha and Sokorocha made a public statement. He was charged to court, my brother, by EFCC for 2.9 billion fraud the day he declared his presidential ambition. Did you know what Rocha said? Rocha said, look, this is laughable. You are dragging me to court for 2.9 billion. The Imo State government is owing me 8 billion. For what? He said that is his security vote for 8 years that he served as governor, which he never collected. 8 billion. That means Imo State, for him, every year is entitled to 1 billion naira as security. This security vote you don't retire. This security vote you don't have to account for. So already, he wished not to take it for the 8 years he was in government. So he's now saying that if I fail to take 8 billion, why should I steal your 2.9 billion?
Yes. So quickly, Mr. Owolabi, slightly away from this, within the week we saw calls by a senior practitioner in a law sector call for, rightly or wrongly, the need for an extension of tenure for the president on the basis of insecurity and all of that. Very quickly, as we wrap up, I would like your thoughts.
That is unconstitutional, and it's equally laughable. How can somebody be in this
and a senior advocate for that matter?
In this age, somebody's talking about tenure extension for a non-performing president.
Interesting. And your final thoughts, Mr. Jide?
No, I'm just wary. We should be wary of lawyers.
Okay.
My brother is a lawyer, but apologies.
Without exemption.
Because this is how it started in 1993. 1993, yes.
No, 2000.
No, 1993, Hope 93.
Okay.
This is how it started with Auto Zeribe, Association for Better Nigeria. You know why? Baba Afe Babalola was the one that first threw the first and said, look, put in an interim government for 6 months.
All right, so unfortunately.
But Baba knows that the court has invalidated interim government.
Unfortunately,
now we have a senior advocate that is also saying that staying in office for another 6 months. So lawyers need to beware, particularly senior lawyers. They should not derail this democracy for us.
Thank you.
All right.
So thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to the studio. Barrister Owolabi, a legal practitioner, Mr. Jide, who is a friend of the House and a political and public affairs analyst, for joining us this beautiful Thursday morning and offering perspective on various issues, especially as it borders with the President's directive yesterday to members of his cabinet. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and we hope that when next we call, you will oblige us your time and your presence. It's been a beautiful ride this morning with you at the other end, providing the wheels and the encouragement for us to continue to do this on a daily basis. Please stay with us again tomorrow as we bring you yet another interesting edition. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Let's do this all again tomorrow on Daybreak on Trust TV. Thanks for joining us.